And okay, so now today, large category choirs, there's Beethoven, there's a bit of Hosek in it. What can, you know, just a message to all the choirs and perhaps some of the conductors that are watching, you know, on their way coming to the arena, on what can, you know, we expect from adjudicators, some of the things that they should be doing and some of the things that they shouldn't be doing with regards to the music itself.
I think I always have got primarily one advice for people that let us hear the music. The final arbiter in this thing is the music itself. The music. It's not about the conductor necessarily. It's not about the chorister himself, but it's about the music. The music is a driver. What I always complain about is that even when we're doing opera, you can hardly see the opera, the story in the face of the people. And why don't we get tapes so that people can just give us the music? Why do we come live? We've come live to see the story, not even just listen to it, to see the story. It's very, very disturbing for me as an individual to see people just having one face to such a song with so much story in it. Even Kyrie eleison. I mean, you see people having one face. They are saying, Kyrie eleison, Lord have mercy on us. There should be some desperation in the face of the person, piety, and all such things.
I think so too.
I'm saying that the song must be the final arbiter, and we find with other conductors that honesty goes out of the window in terms of being honest to the song, not even to the composer.
To the song
because
itself.
If I've written the song and I must be truthful to it, because you can beat me with my own song.
That's so true.
Because you are more truthful to the song. And we have seen that in the past. Composers being beaten by people who didn't write the songs. Because it's about the song.
It's about the song more than anything.
It's about what it's telling us to do. It dictates, as I said, it's the final arbiter.
Wow, folks, you heard it for yourself, and I'm hoping that you took a leaf, you know, from the page yourself. And Siyabonga has been prescribed large, section. Is it going to be difficult for you to sort of adjudicate that part with regards to it's your own composition and perhaps, you know how the song should be going. Are there going to be any expectations perhaps from the choirs on how you're going to be adjudicating your own composition?
With me, it doesn't matter whether the song is mine or not. It's just, as I said, that it's being faithful to the music.
Yes.
Of course, there is that inclination that you feel maybe is slightly different from other songs. But hey, Thonko's song, Mthabela's song, Beethoven's song, it's the song itself. So when I look at it, I don't have a higher pedestal for it simply because it's mine. It's just a question of, do these people speak the message? Because the song sent them to me.
Yes.
To bring the message to me.
Yes.
Now I'm an adjudicator and I'm an audience.
Yes.
I need to get the original message because I don't want the original message to be distorted. Because we call that in isiZulu itshela mfazi. Where the message, if I say to you, isalukazi, the woman fetches wood, and you've got 5 people or even 10 people, by the time it gets to the 10th person, it says, ikati liyagijima, the cat is running.
Yes.
Because it has been too many people. But now, the question is, we must carry the same pattern, up to the finish line, and get the same message that we got.
Wow, thank you so much. So many lessons this morning, and it's quite interesting. I will tell you now, when I started writing for my master's, I think I'm doing indigenous elements of, indigenous, South African elements in opera post-1994. And I mentioned in my study that the very first indigenous opera, so to say, was Ziankom. So thank you so much for that. And because that was the very first one I've seen. I never saw all the others, until I think it was second year of varsity. And so thank you so much. It's quite an honor and a privilege to have to interview you and have you around as well.
Thank you.
So it's quite amazing. Thank you so much. Are we going to see Ziankomo very soon? Perhaps on our stages?
It depends on sponsors and entrepreneurs or something.
Yes.
Because this thing works through money.
Yes, very true.
You can write it. it can be viewed the whole countrywide.
That's true.
But it depends if there is exposure to it.
Yeah.
And of course, are people willing? Because I know that people can love it.
Yes.
It's a wonderful story.
It's beautiful.
It has got some lessons for today.
Yes.
Even if this thing happened a long time ago. The time of Mpande, the king, is long before the present king. But the story permeates throughout the ages, and it just traverses any cultural barrier.
All I'm saying, Mnomiya, is that such operas, what they do, I think, to audience members is that South Africans can relate to the story. They can relate to the music itself. So I think if we can have more and more such compositions, they would actually have more people coming to the theater. I guess. Yeah. And thank you so much, and all the best for today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sydney and the Choral Mag at large, ngivumeleni ngisho ukuthi kuni molweni, ngiyazibulisela ukusho njalo. Lo ukhulumayo nguXolani Gqasana, abambiza uFraser Shushine, iveste elimhlophe, the conductor of Voices of the World. Kubuhlungu kakhulu ukulahlekelwa liqhawe the legend ubaba SBP Mnomiya, who was the composer, the conductor, a teacher, the pianist, and the father. Isizwe sonke esinsundu kubuhlungu kakhulu kuso, kwaye silahlekelwe. Kwaye ulutsha and the next generations bawufunda lukhulu kakhulu in his music. Akasishiyanga sedwa, usishiyile nemfundiso enkulu kakhulu. Ewe ngiyavuma ukuthi there was a connection between me and him enkulu kakhulu, and music wakhe ngendlela ebengiyenza ngayo ibengiforce that ngiyenze ngendlela yahlukile kakhulu. Why? Because bengingena kuzicathulo zakhe ngishare the emotions spiritually, mentally, and otherwise. Ngiphele sengikhohlwa ngami. You will remember that in all the competitions ebezikhona, if your music yakhe is prescribed, I will never hesitate. I will go for it, for a reason that the way yabhala ngakhona ukuhlanganisa kwakhe the voices together with the instruments bekungithatha kungibeke kwilizwe lam ngedwa, yenze lento ngiphele ngikhohlwa ngami when I'm on stage. If you remember, there was a song ebengiyenza ayibhalile to one of the competitions. I ended up forgetting that I'm on stage. Ngabheka the audience eyayikhona in the hall, maliphela iculo lakhe, sengiziphakamisela izandla ngizikhombe phezulu, and by then tears were just rolling down my face. I couldn't hold myself, and the audience stood up, bevuma ukuthi sikuzwile baba Mnomiya ukuthi uthini kuthi as the nation. And the last song that I did for it was Ziyankomo. Oh, no, sorry. The last song that I did, it was
Ziyankomo, yes. Where I was not myself. Ingoma ebuhlungu kakhulu lapho akhuluma ngezintombi zakwaZulu, nensizwa zakwaZulu, nendaba ezinhle zakwaZulu. That yona ingoma iyodwa iyakhuluma nabantu and iyabathatha abantu ibabeke kwindawo yomoya baphume enyameni. Ubaba Mnnomiya ngumuntu onjalo okukhiphayo enyameni uhlale emoyeni, ngumuntu womoya. Yiyo into ebingenza ngiwuthande kakhulu umusic wakhe, because uyaphuma enyameni asale nomoya. There was that connection between me and him. So kuthi thina abantu abansundu masivume sithi akuhlangana ongahliyo kunje kuzo zonke inhlanga. May his beautiful soul rest in peace. I thank you.
Sanibonani. My name is Thami Zungu, a program coordinator of voice and choral studies at Tshwane University of Technology. I'm also the chief adjudicator at Old Mutual National Choir Festival. I met Mkhulisi Mnomia in 1987, although he was no longer the student nor the teacher at Zwelibanzi High School, but he always came when we needed him. Similarly, at Devon Singh's adult choir, he was no longer a full-time member, but he always came when we needed him. Just like the experience when we were preparing for Denholm Developers around 1989, and we were doing Then Comes the Dawn by Haydn. The song, the transcription of the song left much to be desired. We were struggling to learn the song because of the poor transcription of it. And I remember the leadership of the choir decided to approach Mkhulisi Mnomia to redo the transcription. And by the time we had it, it made sense. All the transitions and the modulations were correct. We even asked him to come and coach us while we were preparing for the competition. He came, and those 2 weeks I'll never forget, because I saw the master at work, the chorus master teaching the song, at the same time dealing with musicianship issues and also dealing with interpretation issues. I was the soloist, and I remember he came to me and gave an advice that when singing the recitative, I mustn't just sing, I need to preach it, because that's what it means, you recite. During the competition day, the choir did very well. We got position 1 in the West End, and I was also nominated as the best soloist of the day, which marked the beginning of my career. Even when I went overseas to study, once in a while we will talk with Mnomia. Besides choral music, we both loved gospel music and traditional music, so he'll always inform me what was happening in the country. That relationship continued even after I came back from the United States. I worked at the University of KwaZulu-Natal for a very short period of time where he was working, so we became colleagues then, and also started adjudicating different competitions such as SASKE, Post Office, and then Old Mutual National Choir Festival. Very incredible guy. While working with him, he was always calm and collected, a great sense of composure, and he approached his work with so much humility, at the same time, very down to earth. And other issues that I learned from him were regarding copyrights. And he will always make an example that if you bake bread, you are the only one who knows what goes in there, the ingredients you use while making a bread. Therefore, you need to put value on your work. It mustn't be other people who will come to you and dictate the value of the work that you are doing. So talking about himself as a composer and as a creator, the issues of copyrights were very important to him, and I think that national dialogue needs to continue. And just listening to him, you'll just learn a lot of things from Mnomia. He was always part of the solution rather than part of the problem. And as adjudicators, we do not agree in all the issues. So sometimes there might be sharp differences here and there, but having somebody like Mkhulisi, he will always calm the storm, and then we'll always come to the same goal, that is to assess the music to the best of our abilities that will be fair to everybody. A great composer, and I believe he pushed the boundaries, and I think at some point we need to chronologically look at his compositions and see the development, because the harmonic language changed, it improved, he pushed the boundaries. So when you listen to Kabi Ngoma which he composed for the celebration of the 40th anniversary. Not so many choirs chose the song because of the harmonic language and the combination of imbongi. And I think it's a very brilliant composition that we need to revisit. So many people probably did not understand the harmonic language, and he was becoming better and better. Although we are very sad about his passing, but we are thankful to God that he borrowed us and we learned a lot from him, and he produced a lot of music that we'll continue to enjoy for generations to come. Ulale ngokuthula, ngiyabonga.
Oh Ngibingelele kakhulu kubathandi be-choral music. Igama lami nguSibusiso Mkhulisi, conductor we-Sounds of Joy Choral. Ngibonga ithuba ngilinikwayo nami lokubhodlela emswanini kuleli fele mnyama elisehlele uma silahlekelwa uphelelani Mnomiya. What a musician. What an artist. He was such a composer. What a humble person. He was a versatile musician. Obungathola ukuthi akaqambi kuphela umculo wamakhwaya kodwa uqamba ne-gospel music. And maesho waqala composer noma ebhala spiritual music, and inspiration yakhe ne-motivation yaqhamuka ku-music we-King's Messengers Quartet. That's where he started umaesho. Mina-ke nje kuSibusiso Mkhulisi, I was fortunate ukuthi I interviewed him when I did my thesis at university. Out of inspiration nganginayo, after I interacted with him, I felt he was very intelligent. He was such an unusual person, and he started writing at a very early age. I think he started writing in 1976 when he was still at school, at a secondary school. And I felt that maybe, no, I need to engage with this musician and know more about him. And then a lot of things came out from the interview. I interviewed him, I interviewed his former teachers, former conductors, I interviewed his brother. Then I did some analysis of his music. Engakuthola ngophelelani ukuthi umuntu onomoya ophansi. Secondly, he was a man of God. May his soul rest in peace. Thirdly, as a musician, he was also a teacher. Even when he adjudicates choirs, when he gives remarks on stage, you will learn a lot from what he's saying on stage. Uphelelani was one person obenemisebenzi eminingi, ama-compositions amaningi, kodwa nje zehlisile enokuzithoba. We have lost a very important figure in our societies. Ube nemibele yokuncelisa abantu abaningi ngokwahluka. Was a very good public speaker indeed. And when he adjudicates choirs, he would stand his authority. He is one adjudicator. I told him at the beginning of this year, we asked him to Pellan, that we bayati na what bayati wabesibizana kanjalo. That we asked Pellan, you are a one adjudicator. I can put my head on the block and get whatever results you produce from a competition as an adjudicator. I can assure you, you are one person who is not influenced by anything. Auna hidden agenda, keep allowing results that you believe are correct and they are a true reflection of your performances ebezikhona ngalelo langa. Wayithakasela wayijabulela ngoba we don't have a lot of adjudicators abanjengaye. So into ayikholelwa kuyona wayimela. Futhi akutshele, he is one person, musician, was very sensitive with pitch. He could detect, he would tell you menza ama remarks stage at even if your audience ingabanga umsindo as a conductor amakhonto yenza stage ngokuthi uzamthi audience entertain audience athi I can pick up even if ucula i-audience ibanga umsindo, if ucula ngokubhima nje I can pick that up, so you can't deceive me. Ngizama ukusho ukuthi he was an unusual person. He was a very unusual person. Why emphasize futhi ukuthi much as South African black composers write their music, mhlamba abanye bengayanga esikoleni bengafundelanga, it's important that you start your music and you get taught formally at a university, for instance, because you learn a lot of things from them. Much as most of them, or some of them, write from the inspiration and being passionate about our music and the God-given talent. But of course, he stressed the fact that it is important to learn music formally. He cited a few examples. Amanye amaculo ayebhala uthola ukuthi wayebhala ngasi. For instance, elinye lamaculo ayebhalile ngasi uthi inama-parallels njengakunoha. When ukhuleka Magubane listen to his music, his song, unoha, uthi kimi wathi uMagubane ephelani wayembiza ngomkhaya wathi emkhaya ama-parallels mkhaya ubheka ama-parallels mkhaya. And uthi Phelani, I didn't understand what are parallels in music. And he only knew about that later mayesesiyofunda music formally at university ukuthi yini into ezibizwa ngama-parallels music. Secondly, ukhona ezinye into ayengazi-understand njengokuthi mayezobhala ispeed seculo. Iculo mostly uthola ukuthi libhalwe M100 or M120 or M80. Yena, he just threw a figure in one of his earlier compositions. I think we know her. And he wrote M78, if my memory serves me well. And he didn't know at the time that he was wrong by just throwing M78. And that 78 does not exist. Kuma tempo markings in maculo. So he emphasized the fact that kusemqoka ukufunda, and emphasized that he told me ukuthi yena, he taught himself a lot of things. He taught himself polytonic solfa, nobody taught him that. He taught himself and practice staff notation, and nobody taught him that. Thirdly, he taught himself how to play piano, which is important. So zonke lezo zinto engarely ebantwini abathize, because he believed in development, he believed in ukufunda nokuzikhulisa nokuthi izinto uzazi, because you don't have a future uma ungazifundisi izinto ungekho well equipped ngempilo. So he was very informative Phelelani. Other than being a music practitioner, he was a man of God. Umfundisi eshumayela emasontweni and so on and so on. Kuningi esingakhuluma, kuningi sekukhulunywe kuma-platforms amaningi nakuma-social media amaningi. A lot has been said about him and his involvement in choral music as an adjudicator, as a composer, and so on, as a teacher, as a preacher, and what have you. And lastly, bekwazi ukufunda into, noma he was a prophet, in other words, efunda into obuthule esingayiboni. Ibuye yenzeke ngeke ngakhuluma nje not long ago about iculo lakhe lithi ubaba Sixolele, ngikhuluma naye this year ngesikhathi se-COVID, seqala i-lockdown. Ngimsendele imessage ngithi mina, Bheki, ngithi mina, how relevant is Baba Sixolele ngalesikhathi sale pandemic? And his response was, maybe you don't know God. God spoke to me many years ago when I was still a baby. You know, that was so inspirational. Maybe you don't know God. Amagama akhe lawa ngibhala wona ku-WhatsApp. Ngiyaxolisa ukwanda kuthatha isikhathi esiningi, ngibonga ithuba engilitholile. Sithi-ke uPhelelani Mnnomiya kwangathi angaphumula ngoxolo. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you very much, Sydney Choral Meg, for this platform. I'm greeting all the listeners of this fraternity. We appreciate your recognition of our legend, SBP Mnomiya, as he would reprimand you when you are in the choral mist. If you call him Pelelan, he'll be saying, then you don't know me. I'm SPP here. Yeah, that's SBP Mnomiya. That's our legend. South Africa has lost. We don't even know how to say it. He has dedicated all his life to this genre. With success, let me put it that way. He has succeeded. The legacy will live on. The composers of this country have learnt a lot from Obaba SBP Mnomiya. And his fight was that in South Africa, we need composers to make a living out of their works. We know so much about European composers. We know how they live. We read about it. But why is it difficult for us in South Africa to do the same? Babu Mnomiya will always challenge arts and culture. Babu Mnomiya will always challenge people who make policies, people who are supposed to look after the arts. Let me say this. When Harry Belafonte visited South Africa after democracy, he was dismayed. He said, I thought you people learned a lot from us. Why did he say that? Because in America, African Americans with their skills were submerged up until the government of the day decided to pour money into their skill, basketball and the arts. And America changed. Harry Belafonte thought South Africa learned something from them. He was disappointed. But we can't hang on to that. We need to move forward. It was Mnomiya's dream that one day this art form be recognized, this art form be respected. Babu Mnomiya, uyihambile indlela. We appreciate everything, your contribution to the country. It's up to us who are left behind. It's up to us to take a stance and make a move. You are watching us and you're saying, I wonder if these people really heard what I said. We will definitely do something. We don't know how, but we will do something about it. Rest in peace, Mnomiya. Usikhonzele komjana. Usikhonzele koBaba uSambo. Usikhonzele koFefe. Usikhonzele koJakalasi, as I would call him. Baningi. Usiqambelile umculo. From easy to very complex. Because you had a gift. Lento ibisuka ngaphakathi kuwena. We appreciate that, Baba. With these words, ithi lala uphumule, lala uphumule.
Ngokukhulu ukuzithoba ngibonga ithuba enginikwe lona abaphathi balolu hlelo. My name is Themba Madlopha from Gqasana in Gauteng. I am wearing various caps in this genre of choral music in about the same way that Pelelani did in his lifetime. Ngilapha njena, I've been requested to represent SACMA, the South African Choral Music Association, one of the iconic choral music formations in the country. It is indeed very sad and painful times that we are going through right now. We have been dealt a very devastating blow by the departure of this great warrior of song. In not so long a space of time, choral music has once again been visited by a dark cloud. Bakithi lisembozile ifu elimnyama. As I draw from the history that I read, as outlined by one of his friends, Umzobe, I gather the fact that we share the same timeline of involvement in choral music activities, which stretches from our teenagehood. As a young man myself, I was a keen follower of Atasa choral activities as broadcast in the then Radio Bantu, and I listened to powerful presentations by KZN school choirs like Ozwelibanzi High School, Mangwe High, Dlangezwa High, and Lamandvul High. Ngizizwa Sihlabana. Who will forget Strike, Strike the Law by the Lamandvul School Choir? Kungihlabe umxhweleke kakhulu la sengizwa ukuthi he was actively involved and he was actively part of what I heard on radio as a young man. As a choral family that we are, it becomes very clear that as we know each other today in the manner that we do, njengoba sesaba umndeni the whole country over, sumndeni walesikhungo samakhwaya, we have long been in peer coexistence in choral activities in our own separate little spaces, but also at times under one roof during competitions. Lokho ngikusho chaza ukuthi njoba sesazana kangaka throughout the country kuyo lento yomculo kade wasasazana kodwa singasana. We have crossed each other's paths unknowingly as we operated in various choirs. I'm talking here about the likes of yena uPhelelani Mnomiya lwesihlangene ngaye, Bheki Mthabela, Mkhulisi, Sibusiso, Gqasana, Mngadi, Charles Banjatwa, Lungile Jacobs, Pat Kumafana, Patrick Golo, Sthunya Forthare, Denley Fuka, Thulas Nkabile, and many others of our time, mainly during Atasa and NCF competitions. But then later in life, as we took up leadership roles, it was SACMA in the 90s that became a magnet that pulled us together. SACMA played a unifying role. We became co-practitioners in various capacities as adjudicators, workshop facilitators, committee members at provinces and national, as well as program directors. Then the coexistence became an existence of people who knew each other very well. It was then at this stage that I met and got to know Pelelani. What struck me most about him was the unbelievable juxtaposition of his humble, easily accessible personality to the huge, magnanimous works that he produced. Uphelelani bephansi ngendlela eyisimanga. Indlela abeyiyo amukelekile kunoma ubani. Bengafani nemisebenzi emikhulu ebekade yenza. You wouldn't link the magnanimity of his works to the humility that he exemplified. His work, or his works rather, reduced and dwarfed him to this little unnoticeable ordinary folk that he was. Nevertheless, he was very strict and firm to the core. He was very upright and very forthright. I enjoyed sharing the table with him. We had a lot in common, mainly because my Zulu flowed easily. Ubekuthanda-ke lokho ukuthi lo mfana waseGoli cha uyashelela lapha esiZulwini. And we shared a lot of funny moments. He equally had a great sense of humor. One I will forever remember. Ileli hlaya lakhe lokuthi, hey wemfana wami awuthengwa kanje umkhonto. You need to find out what that joke was about. Very, very funny joke. I actually laugh every time I think about it. Pelelani was a national symbol of note and high sophistication. He was a national asset. I liken him to the Carl Jenkins of this world. I liken him to the Oscar Escaladers of this world. He was no different from the pivotal role that Carl Jenkins played in major events in the UK. He was no different from the role that Oscar Escalada played in the major choral classical music events in the Latin Americas. Mnomiya, he played a very pivotal compositional role in most of our music events in the country. I find it very difficult to understand why in this country people like Mnomiya are not given the honor and recognition that they deserve. I would think solo iviki liqalile ngabe kade wasasibona uMnomiya lokevela komabonakude against the background of his signature composition ngiboniseleni uphi umama wami. I just imagine how we in the choral fraternity would have felt to have seen Mnomiya, to have seen Omjana, to have seen Sambo, and all the other icons of this choral fraternity being given that special recognition and honor when they have succumbed, when they have demised, they are given that recognition. Ngoba umphakathi wonke waseNingizimu Afrika uye wethamela imisebenzi yalamaqhawe akwangoma. Ingakho ke bekufanelekile ukuthi njengazo zonke ihlabani zezwe, I'm taking nothing from all the celebrated lives to have been given that honor. I'm taking nothing, but I'm saying, don't our icons deserve the same honor and recognition? I thank you.
Asikubonanga kodwa sikubone ngesenzo. Yebo, yebo, ukhona emandulo umhlaba ungakabibikho. Yebo, wathana umhlaba nezulu nakho konke. Yebo, 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 moyo ngcwele. ngaphandle lwahlukana kabili bangene kenana ubahlenga yebo 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 moyo ngcwele wakhululisizwe sakwa-Israyele Gibhithe wamhlenga uHerodi encane lukumbulala yakhula inkosi yezulu yadlondlobala yebo uJesu washo umoya wenkosi uphezu kwami akenzanga lutho ngaphandle kwesandla sakho basebela bambulala wena wamvusa
A very good day to all South Africans, and in particular to all the music fraternity of South Africa. This is our tribute to Philelani Mnomiya. We as the Durban Sings and teachers of Zwelibanzi, where Philelani did his high school education. I first got to know Philelani when he was a teenager at Zwelibanzi High School, where I taught. That was way back in 1981. In our first week of interaction, he and a few other friends of his stood out as school choir devotees and enthusiasts. Of the lot, Pelelani, the less loquacious of them all, participated in the discussions by looking at this person and at that one and smiled affectionately as the new boys exchanged jokes after the first choir practice. This was after our then principal, Mr. Mhlongo, had chased them away, claiming that they had been admitted to the school fraudulently. I then intervened and got them all back. We laughed heartily about it and dismissed it as a bad joke. My first impression of Pelelani's character was enormously accurate. This was confirmed in later years when he rose to great heights. Pelelani was a different kind of a teenager. Intellectually and mentally, he was way ahead of his chronological age. His adult brain, housed in a teenage body, earned him the nickname Ikehla, as Pelelani was affectionately called by his peers. He was hardly ever found on the wrong side of the school rules. Always prim and proper, behavior-wise, I mean. That was evidenced by just one occasion in 2 years when I caned him and the rest of the choir for failing to adhere to the school choir rules. This is one event that he did not enjoy at all in his 2 years at Zulibans High School. But notably, in the event of my absence from the school choir, Pelelani would handle the choir so proficiently that I would find it much improved than the time that I would have left it. The choir would say to me when I returned that it was better when I was there handling the choir than Pelelani handled the choir, because he was stricter than me and did not hesitate to discipline even his best friends when they stepped out of line. His recognizable mark in music began to manifest itself to the school community soon after he set foot at Zulibans High School. And he and his friends did not hesitate to form a quartet that sang classical music songs that Pelelani had composed. In 1982, when the school choir presented the Italian Salad, a rather tricky song for high school competitions at that time, with his dynamic and energetic voice, Pelelani became an obvious choice for a soloist and he did not disappoint. He indeed was a perfect fit, sailing through that long baritone solo passage of the song with absolute ease. Despite the prominence that he had acquired within the school choir and academics, he remained humble and respectful. All the teachers of Zwelibanzi who taught him can attest to this. Not once did any teacher find Pelelani with a long face. What a gentleman. Towards the end of 1982, when the mighty Durban Sings was founded by the late Babo Sisibuthelezi, Pelelani and his group of friends formed the spine of the choir. His elder brother Tulani and his sister Kulile also became members of the Durban Sings, making Durban Sings the family affair. His contribution in developing the ethos of Durban Sings was unprecedented. He stood out like a sore thumb, way above his friends and peers. Accepting responsibility as a chorus master catapulted his growth and confidence in managing human beings, a skill he would need all his life as a music enthusiast and teacher. This is when I think his musical ability began to ripen. Pelelane was a man that you could trust. Both Mr. Buthelezi and myself were teachers and choir conductors at our respective schools, and sometimes got very busy with our employment responsibilities to the detriment of our school choirs and Durban sings. At Zolibanzi, it must be mentioned, this did not happen because Pelelane was there. He soon became a chorus master who ensured that the school choir did not only learn the musical pieces to increase the repertoire, but also made it his commission to fine-tune the vocal frames of the choir members. Those who knew him will attest to this. I can say it with confidence and pride that some of the many attributes for which the Durban Sings Choir was well known and celebrated as a trailblazer were introduced and instilled by Pelelane in the choir. Pelelane's scope and involvement in the choir was not limited to just singing, writing songs, and being a chorus master. He was also very instrumental during the times of competition preparations. With his musically attuned ear, Pelelane was very quick to pick up the musical mishaps that needed moderation and correction from the performances. His continuous growth by leaps and bounds was noticeable from a distance. His artistry in musical composition caught our attention as his immediate music conductors. His composition of his juvenile years were in a way tested in both school choir and Durban Sings, and were found fitting to be part of our Zolibanzi, Durban Sings, Chesterville choir, school choir, and the Matthew Singers repertoires. Such songs as Baba Sixolele, Unoha, Ngiboniseleni, Amadlelo Alhlaza were amongst his first. Later in life, as we all know, he matured as an adjudicator at various competitions, at provincial as well as national levels. Though he did not say this to me, but I have learned that he did not want to adjudicate some people who were his former teachers and role models in music, like C.B. Buthelezi and Mzwandile Matthews and many others. Pelelane was extremely versatile. This I found to be a sign of respect and humility that characterized the maestro. Armed with an amazingly extreme language competence and versatility even at a young age, Pelelane never failed to engage Mr. Buthelezi and myself intellectually with disquisitions of the finest philosophies of life, involving, among other things, cultivating love for literature, poetry, arts, education, religion, politics, science, industry, and commerce, and everything that related to civilization. A fellow of quiet demeanor, with a radiant personality and great fun to be with, Pelelane refused to spend his lifetime in the misty lowlands and dull plains of poverty and all that characterized life in the environment in which he grew up. Raised by a single parent, Mthabela, uPelelane ayemthanda kakhulu, who raised all 5 of her children single-handedly after her husband's early exit from life. He fought his way up to stardom in various fields mentioned earlier. A deeply spiritual man with a deep sense of reverence for God, Pelelane upheld high moral standards. His dedication to the service of God was evidence to this. Need I say, ladies and gentlemen, that we shall miss him dearly for a number of attributes
that he exuded and radiated, from which we all benefited. Principal among these, as shared by members of the Durban Sings and Zoliban's teaching staff. 1, neatness, which was demonstrated by the way he dressed. Pelelani was an exquisite dresser. And also he had an overdeveloped taste for an appropriate choice of words when he composed songs, as well as when he addressed gatherings, said Duma Bengu of Durban Sings. 3, meticulous language use when he addressed gatherings, said Captain of Durban Sings. 4, respect for all, peers and others alike, said Falitenjwa Mkhulisi of Durban Serenade. 5, attention to detail. Everybody who knew Pelelani closely will tell you that when he taught a song and prepared a choir for performances, he displayed expert knowledge. As a chorus master and conductor, he demanded a high level of concentration, accuracy, and undivided attention. 6, humility. Pelelani remained humble even when he was famous and had achieved so much in his music career and life in general. 7, warmth. He still exuded the same warmth that we knew him by since our times in Durban Sings, said Mkhayongiti of Durban Sings. Needless to say, words are not enough to express the pain that we feel, especially because we had pinned our hopes on him, among other members of the Durban Sings, to resuscitate and revive the choir. We would like to register our gratitude and thanks to his family from the bottom of our hearts for selflessly sharing their prized possession with all of us. In closing, the scripture in John chapter 5, verses 28 and 29 gives us hope that we shall see him again when Jesus, at the instruction of his Father Jehovah, resurrects all our dead loved ones. I thank you.
Yes,
Then on the other level, Jesus Christ was saying that we need to forgive people because really when anybody does something that is very good, that is very bad, they don't know what they are doing. When somebody hijacks somebody, they don't know what they are doing because they don't even know when they shoot that person. When that person dies, they don't know how many people are behind that person. It's only at the funeral that maybe his eyes will be opened as to who this person is. And so every time when somebody does something that is wrong, there's some level of not knowing what they are doing. So Jesus Christ was saying to us, let us forgive people because every time when somebody errs, when somebody is wrong, they don't know what they are doing.